Back to politics now as Republicans hold hearings this week on President Obama's immigration action as 5 million people could face flooding the workforce. Arkansas Senator-elect Tom Cotton says that he believes that will hurt the chances of Americans who are already out there looking for work.
We'll come back from the Thanksgiving holiday and make a decision about the best way to proceed on a tactical measure, but I think Congress has to stand up to protect our prerogatives, which is say stand up for the American people. You know, the president just lost an election in no small measure because wages for working families are declining and unemployment is still too high in too many places. And the first big action he took after the election was to make it easier for illegal immigrants to get jobs, not for working families to get jobs.
Soon-to-be Senator Tom Cotton, and I am joined by Katie Pavlich, the news editor of townhall.com and a Fox News contributor, and Marianne Marsh, former senior advisor to Secretary of State John Kerry. Good to have you both with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So Marianne, Tom Cotton makes the point that the president and his party lost a huge election in the midterms, and that the economy was the #1 issue that people talked about in the exit polls in terms of what mattered to them most. And now he's doing something that many believe could take the jobs away from some of those people who have suffered for a very long time.
Well, I think the next 2 weeks is going to be a preview of what it's going to be like to have the Republicans run the House and the Senate. And Tom Cotton's certainly a perfect example of that. The fact is, Republican support for immigration reform has dropped. And Republicans have absolutely no political incentive to reform it. So now that they're going to control the House and the Senate, they talk about defunding the government, defunding Homeland Security, maybe even shutting down the government. Instead of trying to reform immigration and improve the economy at the same time, they're going to have to learn to walk and chew gum, too. And that's going to be a very tough job for them.
Yeah, but I think, well, Katie, maybe you can take this on. I think you know that what he was talking about was that there's an issue of priorities that has not been addressed again. You know, you have Charles Schumer saying that, you know, we shouldn't have done health care when we did it, and now you've got a situation where the economy still needs help. Middle-class families are, you know, said to be the top of mind for Democrats, and yet this is the move that they want to get in.
Yeah, and it goes to show that the president and Democrats in the Senate still aren't listening to the American people when they say that they want lawmakers in Washington, D.C. to be focused on the economy, and not to mention 65% of them across the board in lots of different polls show that they're against President Obama's executive overreach on this issue. And you take a look at how this is funded. You know, Tom Cotton's talking about the tactical issues here of defunding President Obama's, you know, basically amnesty plan. And President Obama tactically went and did this thing through the United States Citizenship Office because it's funded by fees. But one thing that people aren't talking about, which I think is very important to point out, is that office is funded by fees, and who's paying those fees? Legal immigrants who are coming here and going through the process legally. So the president has set up a system where he is using the office that is paid for by legal immigrants to pay for illegal immigrants to come here and get their citizenship. It's ridiculous.
I mean, anybody who knows anybody who's gone through this process knows it costs a lot of money, Marianne, and that it's exorbitant in legal fees. People spend, you know, more than they can possibly afford to spend to get through this process, and we're going to, you know, sort of sweep all these people in for free.
Well, look, President Obama and the Democrats all admit this is not the answer to immigration reform in and of itself. It is part of the answer. What really needs to happen is an immigration reform comprehensive bill needs to be passed by the Democrats and Republicans. The Senate passed one. The House did not. And I think when you hear in the days after the last election going into the next Congress, defunding Homeland Security, how is that protecting anybody? Defunding the government, how is that protecting anybody? I mean, none of that makes any sense. So you don't see the Republicans offering an immigration reform bill. You don't see them offering an economic package. That's what everyone's looking for, and that's what this election was about. No doubt Democrats came up short on the economy, but the fact is 2.7 million jobs were created in the last year,
I want to give Katie a chance to respond because I started with you, Marianne. Go ahead real quick.
Republicans have offered legislation. Marco Rubio said just 2 weeks ago that the House should take up a piecemeal pieces of legislation, meaning border security first. Then we can talk about the immigration reform package. Comprehensive bills don't work. Obamacare is an example of that, and illegal immigration is another example of how that would fail. We need good bills, which the House has talked about doing piecemeal, not just one big bill. So saying Republicans haven't offered anything is just not true.
And we know John Boehner has no appetite for the shutdown, and you know, piecemeal looks like the way this is going to go, if anything. Thank you very much, Marianne. Katie, thank you. Good to see you both.
Thanks. Bye, Mark.